$4.95. Page 495, how to do standard deviation with a calculator. I was at a workshop this weekend at Google conference, and I learned how to put music behind the YouTube. I was thinking maybe that'd jazz up the little math videos. I mean, Rigetti with a song behind her. I don't know. Still 30 minutes of math, huh? Only so exciting. Here we go. And you're like, probably, duh, Rigetti. We all know how to do that already. You can use your graphing calculator to determine the standard deviation of a data set. That'd be great.
Step 1. Type stat and then select one edit. Enter each data set into its own list. Step 2. Press stat, then scroll to the right and highlight calc. Press enter to select one bar stats. Press enter. Step 3. Your screen should display one bar stats. Press second, then the list you want the calculator to use for these calculations. Step 4. The calculator should display the same data values as when you determined the mean. However, this time use the value for that word little symbol on X.
Oh, look at this little thingy. Guess what? This stuff sounds familiar, right? Stat, calc, one variable statistics. We already know how to do this. It'll pop up a list. We were looking at min, max, Q1, Q3, mean. Now we're looking for this little sideways P symbol that is standard deviation. Using a graphing calculator, determine the standard deviation of Aaliyah's and Timur's spelling bee scores. All right, so we got to flip back to the data from the beginning of the day yesterday. Aaliyah and Timur. Okay. Back.
It says timer and then
It says it two ways, huh?
timer.
Yeah, take a pass. Back table. A back table. You get, Jerry. You guys get Aaliyah. Middle table. You get Timur or Timur, depending on what page you're looking on. So Aaliyah's data back to 3 tables. Timur's table in the middle. Here we go. On. Stat. Edit. I go to my lists. There's something I don't want. I go to the top. Clear. Enter. Yes.
I have a calculator malfunction. Never mind, I have a second calculator.
All right. Enter stuff into a list. Stat, calc, one variable. I was in list 1, so we're good. Enter, enter, enter. Do we have our info in the list?
Nope.
Yeah.
What's the matter, Brody?
Looking for a copy.
Is this one mine or one of yours? This one's mine. Okay. This kind of stuff we've seen before. This is the first screen you get. The first number is the mean. Notice that sigma x, that's the sum of all the numbers. Brody did that for us yesterday. He was interested in what the grand total was. If you add up all the number in Timar, or I did Aaliyah's list, it's 500 spelling bee points, I guess. This is the sum squared. That, I guess, will be useful at some other time. The one we need today is right here, sideways px. Sideways px. It's right above the n. N stands for number of data points in our collection of spelling bee scores, 10. Remember down, if we did the scroll down, we had the things we needed for our dot plot or box and whisker, the 5-number summary. But today we're right here on the first screen that you see, but it's near the bottom, right above the N. For Aaliyah, I get 14.1 for a standard deviation. Aaliyah tables, do you agree with me? Leah was the back tables. Are you getting 14.1? Okay, so I'm going back to where we are, page 495. Aaliyah is 14.1. Timar, I didn't enter. I'm counting on you guys. Middle tables, what do you have? Excuse? 32.2. Do people at the middle tables agree with Anna? Okay. So, Aaliyah Timar, and again, this is standard deviation. This is how far are the majority of the data points away from the mean. This is about spread. If I find the average, how far is the main part of the group of all of the data points? Okay, what was the prediction you made in question 1? What do the standard deviations tell you about each person's spelling bee scores? So let me see. I got to remember because we started. Okay, we were trying to decide whose spelling bee scores would have a lower or higher standard deviation. I didn't write it down. We looked at the box and whisker plots, and we picked the one with the least spread based on the box and whisker plot. So I can't remember what we predicted, but let's see what we're...
It was, wait, the very first one, like where it was all like the numbers, because like what we said, we took a vote.
You're a little fuzzy.
Yeah. This is a different question, I think, than the vote. On the vote, we didn't know what to do. When we first started talking about standard deviation and realized standard deviation means spread, we kind of looked at our box and whiskers, okay? But I didn't write anything down. Did you guys?
No.
Okay, so we can't say what our prediction was. I know we talked about it out loud. 6. Which student do you think Ms. Webb should add to the spelling bee roster? Okay. Use the standard deviation for the student you recommend to add to the roster to justify your answer. Now, I think one thing that might be helpful along with the standard deviation is the mean. So I have Aaliyah's numbers in front of me. The mean was 50. So the x with a line over is 50. And what this standard deviation means is that the majority of her spelling bee scores are either 14 ahead of 50 or 14 below 50, within the range of 14 over and 14 under 50. What was the standard deviation for Timar? Was it also 50? So for Timar, the majority are either 32 over 50 or 32 below 50. So they're within a bigger range, okay? Both of them are centered around 50, but Timar's is spread way farther up and way farther down. Okay, so who do you think would be better to have as the representative of our school? Why?
Because she has a better chance of getting a higher score.
She has a better, we're answering number 6 right now, chance of getting a higher score. What evidence do we have? Her standard deviation is, how does it compare to Timar's?
It's close together.
Okay, so the deviation is smaller. So her scores are closer together. It's easier to predict how she's going to do. Timar might do as good as Aaliyah. In fact, on average, he does. His mean was 50, her mean is 50. But with Aaliyah, you don't have as big of a range on the good days versus the bad days. Timar, he can get better some days, but what else do you know?
Can get worse other days.
Other days, it's not so good. Oh, awesome. Let me double check if we're supposed to go further today. Do I have it written down? Problem 3 and 4. Are you kidding? I don't think so. Oh well, let's keep working. Okay. But look at this. This next one isn't that hard. Okay, top of page 496. Recall. Kenya, could you read it, please? Oscar.
And Coach Maynard is comparing the heights of the home team's top 10 players to the heights of the visiting team's top 10 players. The ball clocks and the data are.
Okay, so we were just talking about a spelling bee, but we had something similar back at the beginning of the unit talking about basketball players and their heights. Okay, and we were trying to decide what could we predict about the team as a whole. Predict which team has the greatest standard deviation in their heights. Explain. Now, standard deviation is spread away from the mean or average. Look at these numbers. Who do you think would have a closer together set of numbers?
Visiting team because it's more symmetrical.
So this is Brody's answer. Visiting team. Wait. Would have lower, based on the question I posed, standard deviation. Because this is what Brody's answer is. It's more symmetric. And within reason, I think that's a good way to go about it. Symmetric means, less way out here and way out there, usually. I mean, so we'll see. This one, how would you describe the home team? Instead of symmetric, what would be a good word to use? Skewed left. That means you have some really tall players, but you got a couple of shorties on the team. Hopefully they're fast and can shoot the three-pointer, okay? Because you do have some tall ones over here, but you do, if we're looking at team average and how far away from team average, you do have quite a spread down in the lower end range. Determine the standard deviation of the heights of each team. Let's divide and conquer. All right, I'm going to divide it different though. Or do you like back row, front row? You can kind of talk with your people. Okay, this crew, you guys get home team. Back table, you get visiting team. How are we going to read this to put it in? First go stat, edit, scroll up so list 1 is highlighted, push clear, and enter. So now if I'm going to do the home team, the first X is at 65, so I go 65, enter. The second X is at 66, putting it into the calculator. Next X is 67, 67, enter. You got it? Okay, so you got to look at your X's and add in one X, one value of each X. Okay, 67. Now where I have 3 of them, I've got to put 70 3 times. 70 once, 70 twice, 70 a third time, and then there's 2 71s. So I just did the home team, working my way along. Back table, you're doing the visiting team. Time. Home, right? Is that what I told you?
You told us to
Everybody do one of them. I don't care. Pick one and do it. We'll get it done.
Between the lot of you, at least.
And guess what? We can actually do them both at the same time, side by side here. I'm going to do list 2 also, just to make sure. 66. Another 67. 2 69s. 71 and 72. Okay, so stat, calc, 1 variable statistics. I entered 2 lists, but I'm going to look at their data one at a time. This one's list 1, and that was home team. Okay, for home team.
This beginning, what if your calculator keeps saying error? Both of them do.
Then it's an error.
I'll have to look and see what's going on.
Alright.
Home team, I see it a mean of 68.6 and a standard deviation of 2. Visiting team. So again, I put both lists in because I got confused what the class was doing. Probably my fault. Stat, calc, and variable. I can re-look at info based on that second list by changing it at this step. Instead of list 1, I'm going to do list 2 by going second 2. Now enter, enter, enter. Visiting team, the mean was 68.5 and the standard deviation was 1.7. All right. Do you guys have something similar? First of all, if we're looking at the mean, it's hard to tell who's the better team, or at least stronger height-wise. 68.6, 68.5. Looking at the mean, they're about the same. Here's where spread comes into effect. What do you see with home? What do you see with visiting? Standard deviation of 2. Excuse me. Good. Who has the biggest spread? Home. That means if 68.6 is the average, you have +2 in one direction and -2 in another direction. in heights. Okay? What does it mean about visiting team? If 68.5 is average, you can go up by 1.7 and on average down by 1.7. So how does that translate to basketball? Who's the taller team? Visiting team in general is the taller team. And if that's the measure we're going to use, that's all the data we have. We don't know who can score. But if that's the measure they're going to use, who do we expect to win more games? Visiting most likely will win more games. All right. I want you to have time to work on homework packet a little. So I'm going to skip this 68, 95, 90 combination. And we'll see whether Miss Morrell needs us to do this before the quiz. All right? So, keep the calculators to work on your homework packet, but books you can start returning up there.